Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rainy episode of Phil and the Mic. As always, am Darren Michael, and with me today, the man who's actually, we got to hustle because he's got to leave for Boston soon because he's umping tonight's wild card game, and that's Mr. Phil Calise. How are you, Phil?
How are you? How's our audience? Excited to be back on. We took a week hiatus because life gets in the way of life and the podcast, but we're back.
Yeah, that was a tough week to be off, man. Just getting back into the flow, and unfortunately, we had to take a week off. But hopefully, that will be our last week off for a while. We'll keep this baby going. Especially since I don't know if I told you this, but the Starbucks by our house was closed down for a while because they couldn't find, I guess, enough people to work there. They finally reopened it, and you know what that means, don't you? Your favorite animal is
the
back.
cat boy, Catman.
The cat. We call him the cat on the leash. The cat on the leash is back.
I know. The cat on the leash is back. And by the way, there's no truth to the rumor that I bailed last week because I had a bad week of picks. There's no truth to that rumor. I wasn't trying to run and hide. I take it on the chin like a man. I wasn't trying to run and hide for my first bad week of football, but I'm back to redeem myself.
Listen, you can say whatever you want, but I think our listeners are going to agree that you were just so embarrassed by your awful picks that they just, that you just couldn't show your face again. But here you are. So I appreciate you crawling out from under your rock, taking it like a man. And, we're not even going to get into the fact that you were 1-3. Okay. We're just going to say that on the season for your locks or for your fill up your bank account, you're 6-4 and you're 2-1 on locks. Okay. So you're still doing fine, but you do need to come back from that miserably disappointing effort that you had last week.
I agree. So let's make it happen. I feel good.
It was just awful. So last week was a fun week for football as it always is. I say we just jump right into it, and we jump into our 5 questions for the week. Y'all ready for it?
Let's do it.
Good man. All right. Number 1. What do we make? Who is the last undefeated team in football, and what do we make of this team?
So the last undefeated team, it hails from the obvious best division in the NFC, and that comes from the West, led by Mr. 5'9.5" on a good day, Kyler Murray. Well, I think we make a couple of things. I think that Arizona is a good team. Like, I think that whole division is pretty good. They're obviously off to the best start, but I mean, I think when it's all said and done, that's going to be a scramble, that division. I really do. I made the prediction that only one would make the playoffs because they'd all be 500 and they'd all just beat each other up. I might not feel as good about that because they may get a bunch of teams in the playoffs all just sitting right at that 500 or slightly over mark. But I think it's going to be a battle. I don't see Arizona as good a start as they're off to. I don't see them running away with this division. But they're off to the best start. So listen, kudos to them. 4-0. They got some nice wins. Who'd they just beat? They just beat the Rams in impressive fashion.
Yeah, very impressive.
Who had just looked really impressive against the Bucs. So it's like, you never can tell week to week.
Well, here's my question for you. What do you think is more startling? The fact that we're only 4 weeks into the season and there's only one undefeated team, or the fact that the Cardinals are undefeated?
I think it's a little bit of parity in the NFL this year. You're seeing it with the Chiefs coming way back down to earth, right? Early on. Yeah. The Bucs do not look like world beaters, evidenced by that. I'm sure we'll get to it, but just fighting off the Pats, who are not vintage New England, after just getting beat up to the Rams. So I think it's a little bit of just parity. And you can't put your stock week to week, because after week 1, the Steelers look like juggernauts, and they really haven't won a game. They haven't won a game since. Right. After going to Buffalo and winning, they haven't won another game. And after the Packers stinker in week 1, they haven't lost a game.
It's just the
So
way that it is. But
you know, it's just the way it is. Yeah, I think that, listen, I think the Cardinals, what the one thing the Cardinals might do if they stay hot for a week or two longer is they may be able to build such a lead that they're going to ensure themselves of just a decent ending will get them in the playoffs. I think they're a couple of weeks away. If they get out to 5 or 6-0, I think, you know, that goes a long way towards that. So
yeah,
keep an eye on
I
the
mean,
old Cardinals.
you know, if nothing else, I think it just goes to show you that this should turn out to be a really entertaining football season. You know,
Looks wide open.
Yeah.
Looks absolutely wide open.
And I think
that's fun,
that's
by
what
the
you
way.
want. Yeah, that's what you want after 4 games. So that's question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. A great Sunday for New York football. The New York Jets and the New York Giants both get their first wins. So the question here is, at the end of the season, who rules New York City?
I'm glad you put the city part on there because it's the Buffalo Bills who ruled New York.
Of course, right? and the Jets don't even play, and neither of them even play in New Jersey anyway. But I mean, play in New York City.
I actually saw a joke that said it's the first time all New York teams won since last week when Buffalo, the only New York team, won. So I saw that joke trending for a while.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. The Giants are better than the Jets. I actually think so. I think it's interesting because I actually caught the end of the Giant game and I caught 95% of the Jet game, and they both won in overtime. They both finished with the same amount of points.
Yep.
They both looked like they were losing that game at times, and then obviously won it. The Giants are actually invested this season in winning. They went out in the offseason, spent a ton of money. They have a third-year quarterback. They have a coach in his second year that I think, you know, they think they're moving in the right direction, but they put a ton of weapons and then got Barkley back this year.
Yep.
So the Giants are the team that is supposed to be winning, or they may have to clean house because they're on a little borrowed time here if they don't win. We know what the Jets are. The Jets are in a major rebuild. They're at the beginning stages, I would say, of the rebuild. I think you leave, if you're a New York sports football fan, or if you're a New York Giant or Jet fan, your biggest thing is, I think if you're a Jet fan, you see enough in Wilson that you feel good about the future, but you're always cautious because will they screw it up, put the right pieces around him? Will they protect the kid long enough and all that? But I think that through 4 weeks, you know, obviously definitely some major lows, but I think the upside is really high. Where like, even when I looked at Darnold by comparison, I never saw the wow plays. You know, you saw the mistakes. You saw a kid who was overwhelmed by a bad team that didn't help him. But I never really saw like a bunch of wow plays. I saw more wow plays last week with Wilson than I saw, I think, in Darnold's first year. So I think that side of it is good. And if you're a Giant fan, you have to, if you're not better than the Jets this year, that means they had to have cleaned house at the end of the year. So I do think the Giants are a borderline 7, 8, 9 win team. Jets will be lucky to win 5 or 6.
Okay.
But it is what it is. I mean, they're in a big rebuild.
Yeah. Well, let's stay in New York for question number 3. The Bills, their scoring differential right now after 4 weeks is 90 points. So they are not just beating their opponents, they are destroying their opponents. 40-0 this past week. The question is, can this continue with this Bills team? I mean, are they just going to decimate their opponents basically all season long?
No. But they are an excellent team, and you know, I know they're your Super Bowl runner-ups. I believe they're your AFC finalists, AFC champs.
Yep.
They're very good. They're excellent. They're an excellent football team. They play in what is exceedingly becoming what it looks to be a very bad division.
Yep.
I don't, you know, the Patriots will scrap because of Belichick. The Dolphins do not look very good. We know the Jets have their, you know, major issues. So they're going to beat the crap out of the division, and they're off to a good start. They put the clunker behind them week 1 and haven't looked back. And I think probably as a preview of what's to come, the showdown in Arrowhead, Sunday Night Football, Bills and Chiefs this week is the NBC has caught some good Sunday night games so far.
Seriously.
You had the Bucks and Brady traveling to New England. Now you got this one.
Yep.
So not that they were hard to predict; they'd be good games. Obviously, these made sense, but some fun Sunday night games for sure.
No, it's great. You know what I think about the Bills, and you just brought it up. So it's impressive. And, the second best team is the Cardinals at plus 55. And those are legitimately arguably two of the best teams playing football right now. So there you go right there. Question number 4. And this has to do with a extremely rough start, as if Urban Meyer's 0-4 record isn't bad enough. Now we've got Dancegate, in which he was seen at his restaurant, which I guess is in Columbus, Ohio, dancing with a younger co-ed. I don't know what exactly was going on, but he had to make some kind of public apology. How long does Urban Meyer last in Jacksonville before he just throws his hands up in the air and says, you know what, I can't do this. I can't go 0-17.
My crystal ball tells me one of two things could happen quickly. The excessive migraines could be coming roaring back soon, and a medical leave is coming. Or he's going to hire Tim Tebow to take attention off of his poor coaching, poor offense, poor team, and overall lack of judgment. I mean, so here's the thing. When you get these guys that are like big sticklers for being very disciplined,
yeah,
and it's a college coach who comes to the NFL, there's already been all the whispers like he's aggravating the veterans, and some of the things he's doing is like rubbing people the wrong way. And then you get caught in this situation. The veteran players don't want to hear it, and they don't have any empathy.
Yep.
Like, he's not a player's coach. And so he's not going to get any goodwill with these players who he's been aggravating since training camp. So this could go south really quickly. And I think the only thing that could save him is like Trevor Lawrence appealing to management to say, I want him here. Like, I we need to keep him. Like, they're going to have to respect their franchise quarterback. He's the only good thing they got. So if that happens behind the scenes, it could help him. If Trevor Lawrence isn't enamored by him, forget it. If Trevor Lawrence is like, you know what, he doesn't do it for me either, this could get ugly quick, really ugly. So,
I mean, it's such a huge.
People thought, they were the uptrend franchise.
Lawrence, gosh,
Urban
yeah.
Meyer.
I mean, there's such a they're on such a rebuilding mode, and they've got such a long road ahead of them, and they're actually not playing bad ball. I mean, they played good ball last week, but Urban Meyer, he's got to take his head out of his ass. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you can't go doing stupid things like that. And some of these guys, they forget that whenever they're out in the public, somebody's got a camera. I mean, somebody's pulling out their phone and they're recording
to make people look bad.
Yeah.
There's people that are trying to set these guys up to make them look bad. Well, he admitted, like, I'm an idiot for even entertaining it, right? But the thing is, if you looked at some of those pictures, and I saw, because it was all over the post, all over the different things I usually check out, he looked hammered. So that's where your judgment goes, right? It goes out the window, because if you used to look at the glazed look over his face, he wasn't there. So but now where's honestly though, just like you would say about players, meanwhile these are kids in their 20s, whatever.
Yeah.
Where's somebody looking out for him though?
Well,
like pulling him away.
He's the coach. Why doesn't he have his restaurant?
Like, he's got to have like a paid. I know, but he's got to have like a paid guy looking out for him at all times to be like, hey, dude, you drank too much. Let's go.
You would think so, or maybe I don't know. I don't know how that works. But we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to last as long as they want him to, which is what, 5-year contract, something like that. So question number 5, who do you think right now, with records aside, who do you think are the best teams in the NFC and the AFC?
It's a good question, right? We're a quarter of the way. Well, normally we could say we're a quarter of the way through. They added that 17th game just to throw the percentages off a little bit. Right. We're not working with even numbers anymore, which annoys me. It's a good question. And you know what? Because there's so much parity, I don't think it's unfair that you could get caught week to week overvaluing or undervaluing somebody. So, like, for instance, if we would have did this last week and you asked me, it would have been hard not to say the Rams off of that great performance. And then they lay an egg at home against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals whoop them. I got this sneaky feeling. I'm going to go with 2 teams in the NFC. Neither of them are going to be the teams maybe that you think about, but I think Rodgers has got one more last hurrah in him with the Packers. And I think the Cowboys are going to be tough. And it's just because the nature of the NFL is so offensive minded
Yep.
that I'm going with, in my mind, the best quarterback in the NFC, with all due apologies to Brady, who hasn't looked very good of late, and in Aaron Rodgers. And I'm going to go what I think is the best offensive overall team in the NFC, which is the Cowboys. I think they got the backs, they got the receivers, they got the quarterback, and when healthy, they have a good offensive line.
Yeah.
And so if I'm handicapping who the best two teams are in the NFC, with all apologies to the Cardinals who are undefeated and the Bucks who are the defending champs, I'm going Cowboys Packers 1-1A right now.
Okay.
Obviously,
Nice.
I reserve the right to change that opinion after four weeks or whatever. The AFC, I do think when it's all said and done, it's Bills and Chiefs. I mean, that's just who I say, right? Obviously, the Chiefs are 2-2, so it's not based on record. I really find it hard to believe anyone else, when push comes to shove, is going to get in between a Bills Chiefs AFC conference title game. I think they're kind of on a collision course with each other.
Well, you know what? This is the one thing that I've noticed watching some of the Chiefs games. They have no defense. They're not able to stop anybody. I mean, I think you and I could go out there and play, and they wouldn't be able to stop you and I either. I mean, in order for them to do anything, they've got to. They can't just outscore their opponents 50-49. It's not a feasible game plan. Eventually, somebody's going to have to step up on the defense and actually make some stops. They're literally not stopping anybody. That's why they're not winning. That's why they're not 4-0. Their offense is clicking like it always is, but their defense has been even worse than it's been in the last few years.
I think they're on a little bit. I think they're a little bit of a hangover. Last year's Super Bowl, I think, was a gut punch, right? Tampa, they did not expect to lose that game, but also they didn't have an offensive line, and so their offense didn't show up.
That's true.
And I do think they're on a little bit. They've been to back-to-back Super Bowls. I think they're in a little bit of like the regular season starting to feel a little ho-hum to them. I don't think they're as motivated by the regular season, but the narrative on Kansas City would be very different if the second-year running back didn't fumble at the end of the game against the Ravens when they were clearly in field goal range to win that game. And so if they're 3-1, I think everybody feels a little differently. The kid put the ball on the ground, they fumbled. The Ravens kind of pulled one out of their hat.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to overstate. I mean, Mahomes is still the best in the world. I think they're a little bit. I do think they've been to back-to-back Super Bowls, and I think it's like a little bit tough to get up for all these regular season games.
Yeah.
But as a little bit of a foreshadowing, I think they're going to put the line in the sand this weekend. I think when Buffalo comes to town, this will be the first time they're through the roof ready for a big game, because now they got to hear about what happened to the Chiefs. They're slipping. Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. Buffalo's better. And now I think you're going to see the Chiefs playing a game because they care about this game. So I think we're going to see that this week.
Interesting. Well, good. There's our 5 questions for the week. Nice job, Phil. Let's get into our player of the week, and I'm going to give you 3 players, and I want you to tell me which one you think is the player of the week. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, 24 of 30, 278 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 186 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Or the third one, a combination of CJ Mosley and Quincy Adams with 25 tackles and 2 sacks for the 1-win Jets leading that defense. What are you thinking? Who do you think had the best game, and get your game ball for the week?
So I did not know this was going to be the 3 that you put out there. And as you were saying them, I literally am telling myself, well, whoever the third one you name is who I'm going with, as long as they won the game, because the Chiefs didn't win. So I'm not going to give my game ball of the week to 2 players who, while they had gaudy numbers, weren't in a winning effort. So I don't say this as a Jet fan. I was going with whoever you picked third. So I'm going with the defensive combo. Now, I did happen to see the game, and they played well. I mean, they really, really played well. The Jets did not do anything offensively in the first half, and those 2 pretty much kept them in that game. So I would definitely give the game ball to the winning players on the winning team, I should say.
Now, I would even say the Quincy Adams is interesting because his brother is, as we know, he's becoming a huge defensive line star for the Jets, Quinnen Williams, I'm sorry. But they just got this guy off of waivers, a couple weeks ago? And he's come in.
Yeah, they signed him. Yeah, in preseason they signed him, but he was cut by someone, and they brought
Yeah,
him in
yeah.
late
I
in
mean,
the
I was
preseason
I
process.
watched
But
I watched
mainly because he's Quinn and Williams' brother. They were giving him a shot in part because of the family connection. Yeah.
yeah, but let me tell you something. I watched a little bit of the game yesterday, and he was everywhere. I mean, he was all over the field. I
Hmm.
couldn't believe it. I mean, that guy looks like a real player. I mean, maybe it was an anomaly, but that guy looks really, really good.
He flies around the ball. Him and Mosley, who Mosley dropped a lot of weight, and I know nobody's really seen him play in 2 years because he got hurt and then COVID
Yeah,
he sat out.
yeah, yeah.
They both fly around the ball and they both thump. They're old school linebackers in terms of like they're a little bit on the bigger side and they hit. So it's kind of fun to see them both on the field together. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a mirage with Quincy or whatever his brother, whoever it is, Q Dub Jr. But they're flying around the ball hitting, so it's kind of fun.
Well, it's good stuff. It was good stuff. So let's get into my favorite part of the show, and that is fill up your bank account. Now, have you had a chance to look? I know it's only Tuesday. We're doing this a little bit earlier this week, but what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts? Are you gonna be able to turn this around? You started off so strong, then you embarrassed the show by having such horrendous picks. I mean, I'm embarrassed to the point that we couldn't even have a show. We couldn't even show our faces in public last week. So the question is, are you going to be able to make up for that and actually pull something out of your ass here and make some good picks for a change? I'd like to win some money, but I need you to take me to the promised land, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, fill up the bank account had a little glitch. It had a little, in the matrix, there's always a little glitch. It messes you up a little bit. You still would have won more money than you lost thus far. I
So
took a
far,
week off to kind of recalibrate my brain. It is Tuesday, and normally I don't even look until Thursday. So the lines could be out of whack if there's
yeah, yeah.
injuries or different things pop up later in the week. So I'd like to, put a little asterisk next to these picks. It's a little early, but we'll go forward and we'll roll the dice with these picks here this week. There are some games I do like. I'm going to start with, I'm not going to make it my best bet, but I foreshadowed it earlier. I like the Chiefs this week against Buffalo. I just think it's a game that, first of all, anybody that's looked at lines the last 2.5 years with Kansas City,
Mm-hmm.
you're normally, no matter who they're playing at home, having to lay a heck of a lot of points. And thus far, and I'm looking at ESPN's numbers here, the Chiefs are laying 2.5 at home. The
Wow.
fact that you get the Chiefs and less than a field goal at home, I'm going to jump on it. And I'm going to jump on it because Buffalo is better right now. I totally agree. Buffalo is a better team right now. But I'm going to go with Mahomes. I'm going to go with the me and home. And I'm going to go with they're hearing it now for the first time in Mahomes' career. 2-2, what happened, this and that. They don't play defense. They
Yep.
don't score enough, whatever. I just think tough spot for Buffalo. I think this is a game Kansas City wins. I don't think they'll beat them up. I just think they don't need to beat them up. They just have to win by 3. So that's pick one.
Okay.
As much as this seems a little hypocritical. I've been on their bandwagon when they get a bunch of points because I think they have a good offense.
Yeah.
I like the Giants +7 against the Cowboys.
Where's the
love
game?
the Cowboys.
Is it in Dallas?
It's in Dallas. Yeah, it's in Dallas. So this is a traditional close rivalry matchup. When the Giants play the Cowboys, you can go back and look at the last 30 games, 20 games. The score is always close. And the Giants do really well in Dallas for whatever reason. You get the Giants, you get 7. The Giants won a great comeback against the Saints in New Orleans last week. Down 11 in the fourth quarter, tie the game, win in overtime. And it's how they won. They go back down the field in overtime, punch it in with a touchdown. Yep. Barkley looked the best he's looked in 2 years. I think this is a tough spot for Dallas in terms of just covering 7 points. I think it's too many points. So I like the Giants +7.
Okay.
Another game, I'm going to do 4 games, and then I'll save my best bet. And my best bet, dicey as can be, very dicey. But I'm going to go with my third game. Third game this is just off of 2 good teams.
Yeah.
But I just think one is 2 good teams record-wise, but I don't believe in one nearly as much as I believe in the other. Green Bay's laying 3 points in Cincinnati to face the Bengals. I do like the Bengals. I think they're solid. Burrow's solid. I think the Bengals are a solid team. There's
Yep.
more hope in Cincinnati than they've had in a long time. They almost lost to Jacksonville at home on a short week.
Yep.
They're solid. They're not Green Bay good. Green Bay's on another level. Aaron Rodgers is on another level. So I'll take Green Bay only laying 3, even in Cincinnati. It's not a big travel game. I mean, they're in the Midwest. I like this. I like this matchup.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to circle this game. I'm doing it with Kansas City, and I'm going to take one shot with this team. And if they burn me, I'm done with them for the year. Here's my best bet, because I can't wrap my basic brain around the fact that this team is a bad team. So I think they're not a bad team, but they've gotten off to a bad start.
Okay.
At home with their season on the line, and I'm saying their season's on the line this week, I'm going to take the Steelers laying 1 point to beat the Broncos, because their season's on the line and they have to be desperate to win this game.
Yeah.
So when I look at the Broncos, they beat 3 of the worst teams in football, and then they got kind of beat up to the Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't the healthiest Ravens team, but they beat them up. They couldn't score on the Ravens.
Yep.
I just thought that was not a good performance when you finally take a step up in competition. And now you travel to Pittsburgh to face a team who's just straight up desperate for a win. And the line wants you, if you're just an average person, it wants you to take Denver. Denver's 3-1. The Steelers are 1-3. Why are the Steelers favored by any amount?
Oh yeah, of course.
This is like a sucker's bet to me. The Steelers are the better team. They're desperate and they're home. And I just feel like they'll lay some serious beat down on the Broncos offense that's banged up to begin with. And if the Steelers have to win this game 10-3 because they're struggling mightily on offense themselves, they'll win 10-3 or 10-6.
Yep.
I only have to cover 1 point. So my lock is the Steelers. That's just my desperate team. I like the Pack. I like the Chiefs. And what was the other one I gave you?
New York Giants +7.
And the Giants. So I went with all favorites, and then all small favorites, and then a fairly big underdog. So
well,
I
you
think
heard
I
it
get
here
back on
first.
track.
The man
I'd
is
like
back.
to be 10-4 the next time we're talking. 10-4, 3-1 in loss. So let's see how we do.
We'll keep our fingers crossed on that one, but on the surface, man, it looks like some great picks. So it's exciting. Let's move over to a little college football. And there's something I wanted to talk to you about. I know in the past we've talked a lot about rankings and a lot about how they don't make any sense. And the beginning of the year, what are you thinking? But here's some things that I wanted to kind of take a different spin of things, and I wanted to see your thoughts on this. So you had number 2 UGA versus number 8 Arkansas, and obviously we know UGA won 37-0. Arkansas went from 8 to 13. Okay, so they went back. So they lost to basically one of the top teams. They got killed by one of the top teams in the country, and they went back 5 spots. Okay, fine. Stanford.
I think knowing you, I knew you were going to Oregon. Yep.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, here's another one. Stanford, who was unranked, came in and they beat Oregon, who was ranked number 3. And Oregon also dropped 5 spots to number 8. Okay. Then you've got Cincinnati, number 7 Cincinnati, that beat number 9 Notre Dame. And Notre Dame went from 9 to 14. Okay. So they actually lost to a team that was ranked better than them, and they dropped the same amount. Okay. Just putting it out there.
Yep.
Then you've got the surprise 5-0 unranked Kentucky, who beats Florida 20-13, and Florida falls 10 spots. I need someone to explain to me.
Can I be fair? Yeah.
How they're coming up with these things.
I can explain this here. Well, first of all, you're going off the AP poll, correct?
I'm right. I'm referring to the AP poll specifically. Yes.
All right. So I mean, there's to me only one outlier that doesn't make sense in the ranking drops. I think Notre Dame fairly dropped where they should have. I think that Arkansas could have actually, again, the SEC gets a lot of bias. I'm going to leave Arkansas and say they're okay where they dropped, just because they just got shellacked. I mean, like, really badly.
Yeah.
It's hard to not drop much when you get totally, because like you could say, well, they were 8. Why'd they drop 5 spots? They lost to maybe the number 1 team in the country, but they lost by 40. there's a lot of teams that could lose by 40. I mean, that's not really worthy of staying 13 off of losing by 40, but I get it because they also had a good win the week before against A&M. And so, okay, fine. Their body of work says keep them at 13. They're going to lose more. I don't think it matters. That's fine.
Yeah.
The anomaly is Oregon, because Oregon lost to a 2-loss Stanford team at home. They should have plummeted more. And here's the thing. While people wanted to overrate Oregon's win at Ohio State, or they wanted to inflate them really high up because of that, Ohio State doesn't look that good.
No.
So if Ohio State were to eventually start playing really well, you could move Oregon back up, but Oregon should have taken a much bigger drop because they lost at home to a bad Stanford team. So, and Oregon was playing with fire before that. They hadn't looked that good before that. I think the week before they struggled, gave up a bunch of points. They have one good win at Ohio State, but that was it. My only issue is Oregon should have dropped more. Florida should have dropped out of the poll. And that's not a knock on Florida. It's their second loss. I'm just tired of teams. I'm just tired of teams with 2 losses, looking at you, Clemson, looking at whoever, this early in the season. Unless your 2 losses are to 2 teams in the top 5 or 6, and you just played that tough a schedule. Florida just lost to an unranked Kentucky team, and I understand they're 5-0, and maybe Kentucky should now be ranked wherever you want to put them.
Right, and now they are ranked.
2 losses this early, just get them out of the poll. You could always put them back in the poll. Like, nobody's saying you can't. You can't go back in the poll. If Florida wins 4 or 5 in a row, and you want to move them back into the top 15, I'm not going to say anything. But they're 3-2. They're 3-2. Just get them out of the poll and put them back. Clemson stayed in the poll, in the coaches poll. They dropped out of the AP. In the coaches poll, these guys need to just not have a poll because they're coaches and they shouldn't vote. They're 21 in the coaches poll. That means there's probably 40 coaches right now that don't even know Clemson lost their second game. I just didn't even realize it. Like, they're just stupid. Like, it makes no sense. I told you the solution to all this garbage, and it's only for TV that they have rankings right now. The solution is don't rank anybody till Halloween. Let's let the first 8 weeks go by, or the first 6 weeks go by. Let's get real bodies of work where you say, okay, this is really where they belong being ranked. Instead of this trash where teams with 2 losses are still in the top 20. It doesn't make sense.
I don't disagree. I just,
small rant. By the way, and Georgia should be ranked ahead of Alabama, by the way. Georgia should be number 1.
Well, they're not going to leapfrog Alabama until Alabama loses.
But they should. They should. They have a better. They have a better resume, don't they? So far?
Well, they're both 5-0. Alabama's at number 1 now. Georgia's picking up some votes.
It doesn't matter.
Alabama's number 1 because they're Alabama. Let's be honest. I think that Georgia's the better team, and I think everybody knows that Georgia's the better team. But Alabama, preseason number 1, they haven't lost, so they're not going to lose that number 1 ranking unless they lose. I think that's what it comes down to. Even though it seems like Georgia's the better team.
I can speak to this as a Notre Dame fan. Here's the only real interesting thing about college football. There's parity in college football more than more than most years. If you look at the rankings, you see some different teams high up, which is cool. There's 2 things that stand out to me about the rankings right now. There's an overt, I don't know why, but there's a bias to the Big Ten. Like, there's some hot crap. I don't know what makes anybody so enamored with Iowa or like Iowa in particular. Iowa almost lost to Iowa State or struggled mightily in that game. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why the Big Ten has earned the right to have 4 teams in the top 9 in the AP poll.
Yep.
I honestly don't. I think that's crazy. But the only real story to me about the college football season is, will Cincinnati, if they go undefeated, make the playoff? And I could objectively say this as a Notre Dame fan, okay? 2 things can be true at once, and I'm probably going to stick to this all year. Do they deserve to make the playoff if they go undefeated? Yes. Are they actually that good? No, they're not. And I'm just going to say this right now. Notre Dame is not even close to the team they were last year or the year before. They have a whole new offensive line. They were on a 3rd string left tackle. They played 3 quarterbacks in the game. They turned the ball over 3 times in the first 16 minutes of the game. And were 17-13 late in the 4th quarter. Cincinnati's not good. They're just not that good, guys. Like, I don't, and I want them to make the playoff because it'd be nice to get a new, fresh team in there. Especially on a year where some of the powerhouses aren't that good. And here's the best argument. I'm going to make it now for 10 weeks from now.
Yep.
If the argument is Cincinnati's going to get blown out in the playoffs, so don't put them in, so is everybody else when they played Alabama. So if they got to be the team that takes the mercy killing, at least let it be a new team, and at least let it be a fresh face that deserves to make it, rather than a recycled team that doesn't deserve it from a Power 5 school.
Yep.
And like an Oklahoma that has struggled all year, but they just make it because they're Oklahoma. Give Cincinnati a shot. And if they lose to Alabama 48-17, so does everybody else in that game.
True.
That's not a knock on Cincinnati.
No.
So, but they're not that good, because watching them play Notre Dame, objectively watching it, saying Notre Dame gifted the game, played 3 quarterbacks, have a banged up offensive line, and they couldn't put Notre Dame away. Notre Dame was down by 4 in the fourth quarter. So I just don't think Cincinnati's that good, but put them in the playoff if they go undefeated. I'd like to see them in there.
You know what? Listen, they're going to have the opportunity. They're definitely going to have the opportunity. I mean, being undefeated at this point and, getting some of the breaks that they've got.
They probably will go undefeated.
Yeah, probably.
They probably will go undefeated.
Then they're gonna,
they are a heads and tails better than most group of 5 schools usually. They got a real quarterback. Their coach is good. Like, they got some things to like, but
no, listen, they're the only thing with them is that there's still a bunch of undefeated teams ahead of them. So we'll see how it plays out.
It's set up, but it's set up amazing for them. Think about this. There's 4 spots.
Yeah.
There's 5 major conferences. The ACC is not getting anybody in the playoff this year.
True.
And either is the Pac-12.
Well, we'll see.
I mean,
we'll see.
I think it sets up wonderful for Cincinnati. I think they got a good shot.
It should. They should be the one that gets there. But I mean, we'll see. It's still early in the season, but so far so good. So good. So let's move over to Major League Baseball playoffs. It was an exciting weekend. Definitely an exciting weekend, especially I mean, the NL was kind of set, but let's look at a few of these things really quickly. So the Jays had to play great baseball, and they did. They just beat the snot out of the Orioles. I mean, they swept them. There's nothing more that they could have done. The problem was you had the Yankees, who were tied 0-0. Bottom of the ninth, Aaron Judge steps up, drives in the winning run. So the Yankees make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Boston, down by 3 runs going into the 7th, pull it out for the victory. So the Jays get left out, and you've got New York Yankees at the Boston Red Sox tonight, which you're going to, and you're going to be umping the game. And then the winner of that game, they get the reward of playing the 100-win Rays, who just had a great season. So that'll be exciting. And then you've got the White Sox, who won their division by 13 games, versus Houston, that won their division by 5 games. So you got some good matchups, I think. But then when we look at the NL West, and this is just unbelievable, right? When we look at our wild card game, you've got St. Louis, who went 19-3 to finish up the season, arguably the hottest team in baseball, facing the 106-win LA Dodgers. I wonder when the last time a team won 106 games and had to play in the wild card. And the reason for that is because the Giants somehow won 107 games. So it'll be really, really interesting, because you're potentially looking at the top 2 teams in baseball playing in basically the first round of the playoffs, if LA can get by the hot team of St. Louis for 1 game. And then you've got the Brewers versus the Braves in the other game, which should actually be a good series. I mean, you've got 2 teams that are both really good, and we'll see what comes out of that. But looking at this matchup, who do you think is going to win the wild card games and move on from there? Where do you think we're going from here?
Well, it's interesting. I feel for the Jays, because I thought they would have been they're such a young, exciting offensive team.
They're really, really
I really wanted them to sneak in. I wanted chaos in that last week where you had play-in games to get the wild card games. We almost had it. Yankees and Red Sox survived.
Yeah.
I gotta say, so they're interesting games. I mean, 4 historic Major League Baseball teams. MLB couldn't have got a better one and done wild card matchup in the AL or NL.
Oh yeah.
Incredible. And then you got Wainwright facing Scherzer. I know Wainwright is older, but he's had a great year.
Unbelievable
year. Scherzer. Yeah. The clear favorite in these matchups is the Yankees, because they do send Garrett Cole to the mound. even in Fenway, even despite the fact he's been a little shaky of late, he's the best pitcher.
Yep.
I mean, in that matchup, it's Eovaldi versus Cole. I mean, it's a big difference. The Yankees should be favorites in that game. I'll make this prediction. I do think Scherzer, I feel like Scherzer's the kind of pitcher that no matter what happens in that game, he'll be just good enough he'll be good enough, as good as he needs to be to make sure the Dodgers advance. Yep. I would be stunned if the Dodgers don't win, even though it's a one game and anything could happen. And the Cardinals are the kind of team that could beat them. They're the kind of gutsy, never say die team that could beat them.
Yep.
But I think the Dodgers are clearly going to win that game.
Yep.
I do think the Yankees are going to go to Boston and win. And I got to say, I think the Yankees are going to steamroll the Rays. I know that sounds crazy. I don't like the Rays in the playoffs as much as I do in the regular season. I think the Yankees are going to have a little magic. I think whoever wins that game tonight is going to have a leg up on the Rays. I just do. I don't think the Rays are a 100-win team. The Giants and Dodgers, I'd give anybody that's listening to our podcast $3 per player they can name on the Giants. I mean, like 107 wins. How many can you really name without looking? I mean, they won 107 games, and outside of Chris Bryant, who got traded there, and a couple of guys, that's not a household name team there.
No,
I mean, that's
not
crazy.
At all. Not at all.
I mean, they're doing it with a lot of bit parts and guys playing well, and Buster Posey and a couple guys, but good luck. Name me the closer on the Giants. Name me their center fielder. I mean, seriously, I know baseball well, and I know Brandon Belt, and I know a couple guys. I don't know their whole team.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. Interesting story with them. But I think when it's all said and done, Major League Baseball hits the ultimate home run if they do get Yankees, Dodgers. And I got to say, even sitting here right now, I think those are the two teams they're going to get. I think they're going to get their dream scenario, which is the two teams from the two wild card spots sneaking by and then running through to the World Series. That's my unfortunate, gives me no satisfaction to say prediction. Yankees, Dodgers, World Series. And I hate to say it because I have no rooting interest in that. That's a terrible one for a Met fan.
Isn't that what you predicted at the beginning of the season? Yankees, Dodgers? I
think it is. It's not what I wanted to do back in April, and it's not what I want to do right now. And I feel like it's destined to happen.
Well, we'll see.
Really
we'll see. I mean, I had the Yankees and the Padres, so at least you have a shot. The Padres didn't even make the playoffs. So,
can we say what the worst possible matchup would be for Major League Baseball?
Yes.
The worst possible matchup would be you tell me what you think it is.
I would say it would be.
It's really obvious.
I would say
bad. It would make them cringe.
I think the Rays versus the Braves. I think that would be the worst matchup.
I was thinking. So that's probably right up there. I was thinking the Rays versus the Brewers.
Well, yeah, but you can't say the Brewers. You can't say the Brewers because
from a TV perspective, from a who cares perspective.
It's the Brewers are a small market, but the Brewers have some aces on their team, and that's there. And then
I don't mean that they could get there. I just mean Major League Baseball does not want Milwaukee versus Tampa.
Well, I think that they would be more okay with it because I think that it's a way to market a small market team that has some really, really great players, as opposed to the Braves where you don't have Acuna, and that's your marketable guy.
That would hurt.
So
that would hurt.
So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it because you were mentioning hey, can you name people on the Giants? Can you name people on the Braves? It's the same thing.
I can because they haunt me in my dreams.
Well, listen, I live in Atlanta and I can't name guys on that team.
Well, let's face it. We probably have a dozen or a couple dozen Atlanta-based audience fans that watch our podcast.
No doubt.
Atlanta, there's one thing you could take to the bank about the Braves. They dominate the NL East and then they cower in the playoffs. So let's be honest.
Yeah.
The Braves aren't seeing the World Series.
No, absolutely
they're going out. And they're not that good anyway, by the way. They have the least wins of any team in the playoffs. So they're not a vintage team anyway. No Acuna.
Just a bad division.
They don't have aces.
No.
Yeah, bad division. They won it. They deserved it. They survived it and played well enough. And the Mets collapsed and the Phillies weren't good. But it's not a vintage Braves team.
Well, you know what? I want to just mention one other thing with baseball. Congratulations to the Orioles. I'm really excited about this. But by being swept the last the last series of the season, they did secure the number 1 pick. You're right. You're right. So it's
Can you
unbelievable.
imagine being the Orioles though? Can you imagine having the kind of awful year they had and almost having to sweat out not being the number 1 pick?
You know,
How bad was Arizona?
The thing that I don't understand, and this is definitely a conversation for another time, but we had the number 1 pick 4 years ago, and here we are 4 years later, and we still have the worst record in baseball. When are we going to, not only that, if I think their goal was to have a really great minor league system. Okay. And if you look at our minor league system, we actually have the number 1 overall ranked player, and we have the number 1 ranked pitcher. Okay. That's who we have. The Orioles I think they've always had some good minor league players. They've always had the great draft picks. I mean, they've just been so bad for so long. But my question is, when are they actually going to figure out how to develop these guys? Rushman is supposed to be this can't miss prospect. He crushed it in AAA. He did really, really well. And Grayson Rodriguez is our pitcher, and he was just an absolute beast in AA this year. These guys should be on the team next year, but they have no track record of developing players. I mean, I think the last player that they developed was probably Mike Messina. And he's long gone, retired in the Hall of Fame. But nobody else.
They had Machado, right?
Yeah, but then they got rid of him. I mean, they don't really. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that they developed Machado. Okay, I guess you could call him that. But just overall, there's just the amount of guys. It's like
miserably.
You look at the Rays and you see their success at developing players, and then you look at the Orioles and their success of developing players, and it's like polar opposites. It's unbelievable, and I don't understand how a team can be that bad at developing players for that long. It's just mind-boggling.
I say it all the time as a Met fan. Forget signing high-priced free agents. Why are the bad organizations not throwing boatloads of money at all the people in the Rays departments? We know the Rays don't pay well, so it can't be hard to pull these guys away. Like, why aren't you offering 4 times the amount they get paid now to leave?
Yeah.
Why aren't they pillaging like these 3 or 4 teams that continue to win? That's all I'd be doing. I'd say, forget the players. Let me go buy the guys who figure this stuff out, and then I'll take my chances. I don't understand that.
They're doing something right. They figured out whatever the secret sauce is, and they're doing it without any money. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Wait, before we leave the baseball topic, who are you picking in the playoffs? I didn't hear your pick. I'm staying with the Yankees and Dodgers. I don't even know who you picked before the year started. Oh, you picked up the Padres Yankees, right?
Yeah, I did.
So do you want a mulligan? Well, you need a mulligan on the NL, but what do you want to do?
Oh, it's so tough. It really is. It really is so tough to figure this whole thing out. I'm going to go a little bit off and go a little bit crazy here. And I'm going to say one of my favorite all-time managers, Tony La Russa, at age 98 years old. I think he's done some great things with that young team. I think he's got them believing in themselves. I want to say I like them going to the World Series. And then who are they going to face in the World Series? You got some good teams there. And I wish that I could go another route, but I think LA is too strong. I don't want to see the Dodgers in the World Series again. I don't want to see them winning. But I think they're going to. I mean, watch them lose against St. Louis. But
they're in a 1-game do or die. They could.
I mean, listen.
How about this? I think it's safe to say the way to if you're an anti-Dodger person, your best shot of them not winning a ring is beating them in a 1-game do or die, and it could happen. 1 game, anything could happen.
It's true.
That's what's so dangerous.
Yeah.
And by the way, Max Muncy might be out for the playoffs. He's one of their stud hitters. Kershaw went down with something. He's out.
He's been out.
So they got a little bit of.
Yeah.
Well, he came back. He was pitching, and then he got hurt. So hey, maybe
you know what though? You know
We'll
what they've got. I mean, think about it. They've got Scherzer, who just is Scherzer. They've got Walker Buehler, who is he's a Cy Young finalist. I mean, he's had a fantastic season, and nobody even talks about their 5th starter, Urias. He won 20 games this year. Where did that come from? I mean, that's got to be the quietest 20 game winner I've ever heard. I mean, I looked the other day and I'm like, oh, that guy won 20 games. I had no idea. So he ended up the season 20-3. You know,
And
so
by the way, somebody somewhere is going, what are my San Francisco Giants got to do to get some love? We won 107 games and nobody's picking them.
And the funny
Nobody's
thing is,
picking them. Nobody.
Who's the Giants? Who's the Giants' top pitcher? Oriole cast-off Kevin Gausman. He couldn't even make it with the Orioles. He gets traded to San Francisco, and all of a sudden he's lights out. Someone's got to explain that to me. You know. So anyway, so it'll be fun to see. Now I have something that I wanted to talk about. We're just not going to have time today, so hopefully we'll talk about it next time. But I just wanted to kind of leave a preview, and that is, you know, we both grew up around sports and we've loved sports our whole lives. There's been certain numbers that have kind of guaranteed you election into the Hall of Fame. And I think that's a really interesting discussion. And maybe we'll even have a chance to bring on a guest to have this conversation about, you know, hey, are there, you know, are any of these numbers still viable? Do we need to reset these numbers now? You know, and what does that look like in the future as the game changes? Obviously, as the game changes, numbers are going to change, numbers are going to go up. And so I think it's a really interesting conversation, and I look forward to that. We'll make sure that we talk about that next time. But wish me luck tonight. I got a basketball game, and yeah, pretty excited. You know, last game I didn't even tell you. I started off 3 for 3. I had a jump shot and 2 3-pointers, and then basically I didn't get the ball the rest of the game. But that's okay. That's okay. I like to think I played some good defense against a team that is just the bane of my existence. We just cannot beat these guys to save our lives. I don't know why. They're really not any good, but turns out I don't know if we're any good either. So we'll see. But I'm excited. One of our listeners, Zach, he was on my team the first year. He's coming back. He's got one of those like ginormous knee braces. So honestly, I don't even know if he can run. He might just hop up and down the court. But he's our shot blocker. So he's coming back tonight. He's rejoining the team in the middle of the season, which is great. And let's keep our fingers crossed for a good solid victory. We are playing against an undefeated team. So let's see if we can go out and make it happen. Yeah.
Now, where can I catch this game? Is this game on ESPN2, ESPN News?
Yeah, it actually is. And what it is it's on ESPN Ocho. So if you have the Ocho, which is ESPN 8, it's also broadcast in Spanish, in a little town in southern Mexico. If you happen to be there, you can watch the game, and we will have English closed caption.
Every time you score, we get a goal.
That's right. You'll see me if I score a basket, I take my shirt off and I throw it, and then I slide down the court. But yeah, so if you happen to be in, I think it's Guadalajara, Mexico, that's where they broadcast ESPN the Ocho. You'll be able to see the Misfits tonight, and hopefully we won't disappoint. Actually, hopefully we all make it without a serious injury. That's what we really hope. But secondary, we hope for a win. So we'll see.
First, no hospital visit. Second, a win. I like it.
That's right.
Well, good luck. Good luck to the squad. Good luck.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. Another great show. Hopefully you've made the listeners some money, because man, I'll tell you, people are. We gotta listen. If you can't pull it off this week, we may lose a lot of our listeners. So I'm hopeful that you pulled it off, and we'll have to see. So again, reminder to everybody: tell your friends, tell your family, tell the people you like, tell the people you don't like, tell anybody and everybody. You go out to eat and your server is asking for a tip, say, here's the tip. Listen to Phil and Mike. That's all I'm saying.
I like it.
All right, my friend.
Good one as always.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you guys next week on Phil and the Mike.